Hey everybody, it's time for another Mini Mondays, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different than I usually do. So, the reason I'm doing this is because while I was moving, I was unpacking all my shit, and I looked at all the manga that I own, and actually I do own quite a lot of manga, and I haven't read a lot of it for a while, so I started reading it again, and well, as I was reading it, there's like, you know what, there's a lot of manga that I own that I think would make really good anime series, and, you know, I couldn't really think of much to do for Mini Mondays. I was going to do a Steven Universe Season 3 follow-up, but then I remembered I hadn't done a Season 2 follow-up, so it'd be weird, so I might get to that eventually. But anyway, today I want to talk about my top 5 manga that I think would make good anime. So keep in mind, this is just my opinion. You know, I've never read every manga in existence. This is just sort of the ones I know of, the ones that I own, that I think would be good. So this is still unscripted. It's still, you know, I haven't really prepared or whatever. This is just sort of off the top of my head, kind of. So anyway, let's get started. So number 5 would have to be this one called After School Charisma. Now this one is basically like Clone High. I actually mentioned it in my Clone High review, and I said that it's a story about clones of historical figures who go to high school, but this one is more drama-based, whereas Clone High is all humor-based, and to be honest, I actually kind of prefer Clone High's humor slant to it, but I do think that After School Charisma does tell an interesting story. It's actually, the main focus is about one guy, Shiro, who's not a clone, going to school with all these clones of historical figures. So I like the slant that it takes, and honestly, I think it would make a good anime, just because it does have that drama aspect. It's got some, you know, nice girly-looking shonen ai characters for all the, you know, girls out there, and it's got some interesting stuff as well, and I just think that it would be a very good story to adapt into an anime, just sort of as a companion to Clone High, just so you can kind of compare the two and see which slant you enjoy more. Definitely a manga I'd recommend, though, if you check it out, and, yeah, that's number 5. So number 4 would have to be Trigun Maximum. Now, Trigun was an anime series. The original ones were actually an anime series. However, the Trigun Maximum storyline, which actually takes up about 80% of the entire Trigun storyline, has never been made into an anime. Well, the story of Trigun is sort of weird. It's a little bit too long for me to explain here, but basically it's just about this gunner named Vash the Stampede, who he wanders the planet of Gunsmoke and, you know, does stuff. That's kind of it. So I really like the characters in Trigun, actually, and the action, I think, in today's society, or today's animation, I think would be really well translated to anime. Plus, the Trigun Maximum storyline, I have to admit, is better than the original Trigun storyline, and I would love to see it adapted into an anime, because, I mean, there was a movie, Trigun, but, I mean, it wasn't really that good. I mean, it was sort of average, at least in my opinion. So I would love to see Trigun Maximum be an anime series, because keep in mind, they are reviving a lot of old series right now into anime. Like, Kiseiju Sei no Kakuritsu, aka Parasite, is a manga series that I thought would never be adapted into an anime because of how well, violent it is. And, you know, that became an anime series and was basically word for word, give or take a couple things, from the manga series, and it turned out really damn well. So I would love to see Trigun come back and make a comeback and see what they could do with the actual Trigun Maximum storyline. I think it'd be good. So that's number 4. Now, number 3 is actually a double whammy, because they're done by the same artist, they're done by the same author, so, and I mean, the core concept of why I want them to become anime is similar, so I'll just go with both of them at the same time. It's Kurosagi Corpse Delivery Service and MPD Psycho. So these two, again, a little bit too long to explain their stories, but Kurosagi Corpse Delivery Service is about a group of people who run a business called Kurosagi Corpse Delivery Service, where basically they take dead people where they want to go, or have them finish their unfinished business, everything like that. And it's neat, whereas MPD Psycho is about a police officer with multiple personalities, and I don't want to spoil anything more than that, but let's just say both their stories are quite interesting. Both of them suffer from the same problem, in that it starts getting sort of crazy, and I don't mean crazy like, crazy, I just mean crazy like, You did not see the story going in that direction kind of thing, but that's sort of what makes them interesting. But the real reason I want to see these two become anime is because of the depiction of dead bodies. So, yeah, this is gonna sound messed up, but I like these stories mostly because of how really intense the drawings of the dead bodies get. These two series have sort of a fascination with really, like, shocking death. I'm not gonna show any really intense pictures on here because I don't want to get a community strike or anything, but let's just say that they're very violent, very bloody, quite disturbing at times, and that's why I love them. I want to see that animated, man. I want to see what they can do with it. And obviously I know that Japan has its own standards and practices and everything, but if Kurosagi Court's delivery service can be in a boys magazine, a young boys magazine, I don't see any reason why it couldn't be an anime. And also, you know, I'd like to see it animated. I mean, that'd be cool. So I guess, and MPD Psycho as well. Which, like I said, the story kind of goes like, after a while, but again, same thing, I'd love to see their depiction of the sort of death and violence in it. I think it'd be neat. And keep in mind that violent anime is really sort of in vogue right now with Tokyo Ghoul, Shingeki no Kyojin, all these ones that use like real violence and everything. Oh, and of course, Kiseiju Kakuse no Kakuritsu is also one of them. So, yeah, I mean, with ultra-violence being in vogue right now, I think these two are prime for being animated. So, those two are number 3. And number 2 would have to be Until Death Do Us Part. Now, this one's a bit of a weird one, actually. I actually stumbled across it by chance one day when I was just randomly looking at stuff, and I thought it looked kind of interesting, and it turns out it was. So, the story behind this one is really quite complicated, so I'm not going to go into detail, but basically, it's about a blind swordsman who protects a little girl who can apparently predict the future. And then it just sort of goes crazy and everything. Now, the reason I'd like to see this animated is because it's got this real nice sort of urban aesthetic to it, plus the idea of a blind swordsman. I gotta say, even though it's kind of cliche, I like that idea. I like the idea of a blind swordsman. It's just interesting to me. So this one, it's sort of a base reason why I want to see it, but you know, I'd love to see the environments be animated. I'd like to see the action be animated, because that's one thing that bothers me about manga, is that the action never really, it just doesn't grip me the way that animated action does. So, I mean, yeah, there's simple reasons, but I think this one would be good, and it's got a long story, so it could last at least a season, sure. And, yeah, that's number 2. And number 1 is Homunculus. Now, oh my god, alright, the story behind this one I cannot explain because I can only give you the real basic plot because it's ultra spoilery, but basically, it's the story of a man named Susumu Nakoshi who has the practice of trepanation performed on him, which is basically the practice of drilling a hole in your skull to try and sort of expand your extrasensory perception, and that's all I'm gonna say about it, because the way it's written, great story. I think it's actually incredibly underplayed, the story, and characters are all great. The thing about it, though, that really makes me want to see it animated is the design of these homunculus, the things that Nakoshi sees. I would love to see them animated because they're very creative and they're very well represented even in manga form, so I'd love to see them animated, but it's such a good story. The way it's told is just great. And I know I'm really just sort of like sitting here blah blah blahing about why these things are great, but that's the thing. I would love to see these animated because I'd like to go more detail in them, break down the story and the characters and what's great and what's bad about them, the way I usually do in my regular reviews, but I can't really do that because, well, I'm not a manga expert. I was just bored and thought I would try something like this, so... Anyway, Homunculus, if you haven't read the manga, which you probably haven't, try and find it because it's really good. Unfortunately, I don't think it was ever released, like, in English, so you might have a bit of trouble finding it, but, I mean, you could find it online, too, if you wanted. Scans are available online. But yeah, it's definitely a story I'd suggest checking out, because if you, without spoiling anything, if you can relate to Nakoshi in any way whatsoever, you will find the story great, and I can definitely say I can relate in some regard to him. And that would be number 1. So yeah, that's my top 5 manga that I'd like to see become anime. I know this was weird. I'd like to know if you guys want me to do any more in this format, because you know, I'm just doing something a little bit experimental right now. It'll be different topics, but, you know, if you liked it, let me know in the comments below. If you didn't like it, please explain why you didn't like it, because that's very helpful. And I'm sure next week I'll do a regular Mini Mondays again, but I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you next time. So, that's all I have to say about that.